Lisa Martinez stared at her screen and rubbed her tired eyes. The numbers dancing across the monitor made no sense at all. She had been working the night shift at Liberty Point for 3 years now, and she knew every type of signal that came through their deep space listening post. This was not like anything she had ever seen before. The signal came from somewhere beyond the gas giant, Titan 7. It pulsed in patterns that seemed almost musical but carried data streams that her computers could not decode. Lisa leaned back in her chair and called over to her supervisor, who was checking the coffee machine near the back wall. "Hey, Captain Morrison, you need to see this," she said while adjusting the gain on her receivers. "I'm picking up something really strange out there." Jake Morrison walked over with his coffee cup in hand. He was a big man with graying hair and hands that showed years of working with tools and machinery. Everyone at Liberty Point respected him because he had spent 20 years fixing things that other people said could not be fixed. He looked at Lisa's screen and frowned. "How long have you been tracking this signal?" he asked while setting down his cup. "About 30 minutes now," Lisa replied. "It started weak, but it's getting stronger." "Well, actually it was getting stronger, but now it seems to be fading again." Morrison studied the wave patterns on the screen. The signal showed mathematical sequences that he recognized even though the format was completely alien. Prime numbers, the Fibonacci sequence, and basic geometric ratios appeared in the transmission. Someone or something was trying to prove they were intelligent. "This is a distress call," Morrison said quietly. "Get Dr. Rodriguez up here right now." Lisa nodded and reached for her communication panel. She knew that Elena Rodriguez was the smartest person on their station when it came to figuring out new forms of life. If anyone could make sense of this signal, it would be her. Dr. Rodriguez arrived 15 minutes later looking like she had dressed in a hurry. Her dark hair was pulled back and she wore the same clothes she had been sleeping in. She took one look at the data on Lisa's screen and her eyes went wide. "Where is this coming from?" she asked while pulling up a chair. "Bearing 27 Mark IV from our position," Lisa answered. "Range approximately 8 million kilometers and closing slowly." Rodriguez worked with the signal processing equipment for several minutes. She ran the transmission through every translation program they had and tried to clean up the interference. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge from the noise. "This is definitely artificial," she said. "The signal structure is too complex to be natural, but it's not like any technology we know about. Whoever sent this is using principles that are completely foreign to us." Morrison called his senior staff to the communications center. Chief Engineer Ben Carter arrived first, followed by Navigation Officer Tony Walsh and Medical Officer Nancy Kim. Carter was a thin man with quick hands and an amazing ability to understand how machines worked. Walsh was young, but had the best spatial reasoning skills Morrison had ever seen. Kim was quiet but thorough and always asked the right questions. "Show them what we found," Morrison told Lisa. Lisa played back the signal and explained what they had discovered. The transmission was definitely a distress call, but it was weakening rapidly. The source appeared to be a large object in a decaying orbit around Titan 7. Carter studied the technical data while Walsh worked on plotting the object's trajectory. After 20 minutes of calculations, Walsh looked up with concern on his face. "If this thing is as big as the sensor readings suggest, and if it continues on its current path, it's going to crash into Titan 7 in less than 4 days, Walsh said. "The orbit is deteriorating faster than it should for an object that size." Dr. Rodriguez had been working with the signal analysis programs, and she turned to face the group. "I've been able to extract some basic information from the transmission. The signal contains what appears to be life sign indicators. There are thousands of individual biological signatures aboard whatever is sending this." Morrison felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. They were looking at a situation that could be humanity's first contact with alien life, and those aliens were in serious trouble. The nearest Earth fleet was 3 weeks away, and any message they sent home would take 6 days to reach command headquarters. "Carter, what's the status of our shuttle?" Morrison asked. "The Pioneer is ready for launch," Carter replied. "Full fuel load and all systems checked yesterday." She's rated for deep space operations up to 2 weeks without resupply. Morrison nodded and walked to the main display screen. He called up a tactical view of their local space and studied the positions of Titan 7, the unknown object, and their own station. The math was not encouraging, but it was possible. "We're going out there," Morrison announced. "Carter, prep the Pioneer for immediate departure. Rodriguez, pack everything you need to analyze alien biology and communication systems. Lisa, keep monitoring that signal and try to establish some kind of communication protocol." Dr. Kim spoke up from her position near the medical station. "Jake, we don't know anything about these beings. They could be hostile or they might carry diseases that could kill us all." Morrison understood her concerns, but his mind was already made up. "Nancy, they're dying out there and they asked for help. That's all I need to know." The next 2 hours passed quickly as the crew prepared for humanity's first contact mission. Carter loaded the shuttle with every tool and spare part he could fit while Rodriguez packed her analysis equipment and communication gear. Lisa worked frantically to decode more of the alien transmission while Walsh calculated approach vectors and orbital mechanics. As Morrison suited up for the mission, he thought about the risks they were taking. They could be flying into a trap, or walking into a situation that was beyond their ability to handle. But the alternative was to sit back and watch an entire alien civilization die while humanity did nothing to help. The signal from the alien ship continued to weaken as their orbit deteriorated. Time was running out, and Morrison knew that whatever they were going to do had to happen soon. He checked his equipment one final time and headed for the shuttle bay where Carter and Rodriguez were waiting for him. Liberty Point might be just a small monitoring station on the edge of human space, but today it would become the launching point for humanity's greatest adventure. Morrison sealed his helmet and prepared to meet the unknown. The Pioneer launched from Liberty Point with Morrison at the controls and Carter and Rodriguez strapped into the passenger seats. The small shuttle felt cramped with all the extra equipment they had loaded, but Morrison knew they might need every tool and sensor they were carrying. As they approached the alien vessel, the true size of it became clear. Morrison had seen the largest human ships ever built, but this thing made them look like toys. The alien craft stretched over 3 kilometers from end to end, and its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal that had been frozen in time. Strange patterns covered the surface, and lights pulsed along what might have been control systems or decoration. "My God," Rodriguez whispered as she stared through the shuttle's main window. "It's beautiful." Carter was studying his engineering displays and shaking his head. "The power readings don't make any sense. This thing is generating energy levels that should tear it apart, but the hull shows no stress fractures at all." Morrison guided the Pioneer toward what appeared to be a docking bay near the center of the alien ship. The bay doors opened as they approached without any signal from the shuttle. Somehow, the aliens knew they were coming and were welcoming them aboard. The docking process was unlike anything Morrison had experienced. Instead of mechanical clamps and pressure seals, the alien ship seemed to embrace the Pioneer, with fields of energy that held it gently in place. The shuttle's instruments showed that atmosphere was being pumped into the bay, and the pressure was adjusting to match their life support systems. "They're making it safe for us to come aboard," Rodriguez said while checking her readings. "The atmosphere is oxygen and nitrogen mix that we can breathe." Morrison and his team put on their environmental suits anyway. They had no idea what other dangers might be waiting inside the alien ship. Carter carried a large toolkit, while Rodriguez brought her portable analysis lab. Each of them also carried emergency supplies and communication equipment. The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that curved away in both directions. The walls were covered with the same flowing patterns they had seen on the outside of the ship, and soft light came from sources that Morrison could not identify. The gravity felt normal, and their instruments showed that the air was clean and safe. They had walked for about 5 minutes when they encountered their first alien. The being appeared around a corner ahead of them and stopped when it saw the humans. Morrison held up his hands to show that he was not carrying weapons and took a slow step forward. The alien was tall and thin with skin that Looked like crystal. Patterns of light moved under its skin, and its eyes were large and dark. It wore something that might have been clothing, but could also have been part of its body. Morrison could not tell where the being ended and its garments began. The alien made sounds that were part musical tone and part harmonic vibration. At the same time, the patterns under its skin pulsed in rhythm with the sounds. Rodriguez immediately began recording everything while Carter watched the walls around them for any signs of danger. "I think it's trying to communicate," Rodriguez said softly. "The sound patterns are too complex to be random, and the light display seems to be connected to the vocalizations." More aliens appeared in the corridor. They all looked similar to the first one, but each had slightly different patterns of light moving under their skin. One of them stepped forward and made a series of sounds while its skin displayed a complex light show. Rodriguez worked with her translation equipment and tried to find patterns in the alien communication. After several minutes, she managed to establish a basic mathematical exchange. She programmed her computer to display prime numbers while playing corresponding audio tones. The aliens responded immediately with their own mathematical sequences. The leading alien gestured for the humans to follow and led them deeper into the ship. The corridors were filled with soft music that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Morrison noticed that the aliens moved with grace and purpose, but there was something wrong with their behavior. They seemed stressed or frightened. They arrived at what appeared to be a control center filled with displays and interfaces that defied human understanding. Instead of buttons and switches, the alien technology seemed to respond to touch and thought. Panels of light showed information in symbols that shifted and changed as Morrison watched. The lit alien approached a central display and placed its hands on a crystal surface. The patterns under its skin began to pulse rapidly, and the display responded with cascades of information. Rodriguez recorded everything while trying to understand what she was seeing. Suddenly, the alien removed its hands from the display, and the lights in the control center dimmed. The creature made sounds that were clearly distressed, and its skin patterns turned dark red. Other aliens in the room began to show similar signs of agitation. "Something's wrong," Morrison said. "They're trying to tell us something important." Rodriguez worked frantically with her translation programs. She had established basic mathematical communication, but understanding complex concepts was much more difficult. After 20 minutes of effort, she managed to decode part of their message. "They're dying," Rodriguez announced. "Their ship is dying and they don't know how to fix it." Carter had been studying the alien technology, and he approached one of the control panels. He could not understand how it worked, but he could see that many of the displays showed red indicators and warning signals. The ship was definitely in trouble. The lead alien seemed to understand that Carter was an engineer. It led him to another part of the control center where a large crystal structure dominated the center of the room. The crystal pulsed with weak light, and Carter could see cracks forming on its surface. "This must be their central computer or power source," Carter said while taking readings with his instruments. "Whatever it is, it's failing rapidly." Rodriguez continued working on translation, and gradually the full scope of the crisis became clear. The alien ship was controlled by a living computer that had managed every system for thousands of years. The biological computer was dying of old age, and the aliens had no way to replace it or repair it. The creatures had become completely dependent on their advanced technology. They had forgotten how their ancestors built the ship, and they had never developed backup systems. When their central computer died, the ship would lose power and life support, and everyone aboard would perish. Morrison studied the situation and realized that they were looking at a problem that human technology could not solve. The alien systems were too advanced and too different from anything humans had ever built. But as he watched Carter examining the failing computer system, he began to think that maybe there was another approach. "How long do we have?" Morrison asked Rodriguez. "Based on what I can understand from their communication, maybe 6 to 8 hours before total system failure," she replied. Morrison contacted Liberty Point and explained the situation to Lisa Martinez. They needed every engineer and technician that the station could provide. They also needed tools and equipment that could interface with alien technology. As the alien computer continued to fail, Morrison knew that they were facing humanity's greatest challenge. The success or failure of first contact would depend on their ability to save an entire alien civilization using technology and methods that the aliens themselves did not understand. Back aboard Liberty Point, Lisa Martinez coordinated the emergency response while Morrison's team worked with the aliens to understand their failing systems. Every engineer and technician on the station was called to duty, and they began gathering equipment that might help with the rescue mission. Carter spent hours studying the alien computer system with growing frustration. The biological computer responded to thoughts and emotions rather than physical controls. When he tried to interface his human equipment with the alien systems, nothing happened. The two technologies were completely incompatible. "It's like trying to connect a wrench to a symphony," Carter told Morrison over the communication link. "Their whole approach to technology is different from ours." Rodriguez had made progress with the alien language, and she was able to communicate basic concepts with their leader. The alien had introduced itself with a name that sounded like musical tones, but Rodriguez called it Veltar for simplicity. Through painstaking translation work, she learned more about how the alien ship operated. The ship's systems were all connected to the central biological computer, which the aliens called the heart. The heart controlled everything from life support to navigation to power distribution. It had been designed to last forever, but nothing truly lasts forever, and now it was dying after thousands of years of service. "They don't understand the concept of backup systems," Rodriguez explained to Morrison. "To them, the idea of building something that might fail is unthinkable. They build things to work perfectly forever." Morrison found this attitude both admirable and terrifying. Human engineers always assumed that everything would eventually break down, and they designed systems with redundancy and repair procedures. The aliens had created something perfect, but when it failed, they had no way to fix it. Carter continued his analysis of the failing computer, and gradually he began to understand something important. Even though the alien technology was far more advanced than human systems, it followed basic logical principles. The biological computer made decisions by evaluating inputs and producing outputs just like any human computer. "The heart is basically a very sophisticated decision tree," Carter reported. "It takes sensor data about the ship's status and decides what actions to take. The biological implementation is amazing, but the underlying logic is familiar." This gave Morrison an idea that seemed almost impossible. Human computers might be primitive compared to alien technology, but they followed the same basic principles of logic and decision-making. Maybe they could create a human computer system that could perform the same functions as the dying heart. "You're talking about replacing their entire ship's computer with our technology?" Rodriguez asked when Morrison explained his plan. "Our computers are like pocket calculators compared to what they have. We don't need to match their sophistication," Morrison replied. "We just need to keep the ship running long enough to get them to safety." "Carter, what would you need to build a basic control system for their ship?" Carter thought about the problem for several minutes while studying his readings of the alien systems. The heart controlled hundreds of different ship functions, but most of them were routine operations that followed simple rules. Life support maintained atmosphere and temperature, power distribution balanced energy loads, and navigation calculated course corrections. "I would need every computer processor on Liberty Point," Carter said, "plus all our backup power systems and every piece of interface equipment we have. We're talking about stripping our station down to the bare minimum." Morrison understood the implications. If they took too much equipment from Liberty Point, they might not be able to operate the station or get home themselves. But if they did nothing, the aliens would die, and humanity would lose its chance for first contact with an advanced civilization. "Do it," Morrison ordered. "Take whatever you need." Lisa Martinez began coordinating the transfer of equipment from Liberty Point to the Pioneer. Computer processors, power cells, interface cables, and monitoring equipment were loaded onto shuttles and ferried to the alien ship. Every spare part and backup system on the station was stripped out and sent to Carter's growing workshop in the Alien Control Center. Meanwhile, Rodriguez worked with Veltar to understand the detailed requirements of the ship's systems. The aliens were amazed by the concept of redundant backup systems and the idea that technology should be designed to be repaired. They had never thought about building systems that ordinary crew members could understand and maintain. Your people plan for failure, Veltar communicated through the translation system. This is a form of wisdom we had forgotten. Carter set up his workshop in a section of the Alien Control Center and began building interface systems that could connect human technology to alien ship functions. The work was slow and difficult because he had to create translation devices that could convert human digital signals into the quantum biological language that the alien systems understood. The most challenging part was understanding how the heart made decisions. The biological computer did not just follow programmed instructions like human computers. It learned from experience and adapted its responses based on changing conditions. Carter had to create decision trees that could handle situations that had never been programmed. "I'm building a very basic artificial intelligence," Carter explained to Morrison. "It won't be as smart as their heart, but it should be able to handle the routine operations that keep the ship running." As Carter worked, the heart continued to deteriorate. More systems began to fail, and the aliens became increasingly distressed. The lights in the corridors flickered and the temperature began to fluctuate. Life support systems struggled to maintain proper atmosphere, and several minor explosions occurred in the ship's power distribution network. Rodriguez noticed that the aliens were not just worried about their own survival. They were grieving for the heart as if it were a beloved family member. The biological computer had been their companion and guide for so many generations that they thought of it as part of their community. "The heart is not just their computer," Rodriguez told Morrison. "It's a member of their society. They're watching a friend die." This emotional component added another layer of complexity to the situation. The aliens needed to voluntarily allow the heart to release control of the ship systems so that Carter's human computers could take over. But asking them to do this was like asking them to pull the plug on a dying relative. Veltar communicated with the other aliens, and gradually they came to understand that letting the heart die was the only way to save everyone else aboard the ship. The biological computer itself seemed to understand the situation and began cooperating with Carter's efforts to build a replacement system. Carter worked for 18 straight hours connecting human computers to alien ship systems. His analog logic systems were crude compared to the elegant biological computer, but they were functional and reliable. More importantly, they were systems that could be understood and repaired by the aliens themselves once they learned basic human engineering principles. As the heart's condition worsened, Carter prepared for the most critical moment of the entire operation. They would have to transfer control of the ship's life support systems from the dying biological computer to his human backup systems. If the transfer failed, everyone aboard the ship would die within minutes. Morrison coordinated with Liberty Point while Carter made final preparations for the system transfer. Rodriguez worked with Veltar to ensure that the aliens understood what was about to happen. The fate of two species now depended on whether human engineering could save an alien civilization that had forgotten how to save itself. The next 18 hours became a race between Carter's engineering efforts and the rapidly deteriorating condition of the alien ship. The heart was failing faster than anyone had expected, and multiple system warnings flashed throughout the vessel. Emergency lighting activated in several sections. As main power began to fluctuate wildly, Carter had connected his human computers to most of the ship's essential systems, but he had not yet tested whether they could actually control alien technology. His interface devices were working, but he would not know if the translation between human and alien systems was accurate until he attempted the transfer of control. Rodriguez continued working with Veltar and the other aliens to coordinate the complex procedure. The aliens had never seen technology that used physical switches and mechanical controls. They were fascinated by Carter's computers with their blinking lights and cooling fans, but they were also worried about trusting their lives to such primitive systems. Your machines seem so crude compared to the heart, Veltar communicated through the translation system. How can simple circuits replace something that thinks and learns? Carter overheard the translation and paused in his work to consider the question. They can't, he admitted. My computers don't think like your heart does. But they can follow instructions reliably and they can be repaired when they break? Sometimes reliable is better than perfect. Morrison coordinated the operation from the Alien Control Center while staying in contact with Liberty Point. Lisa Martinez reported that their station was operating on minimum power after transferring so much equipment to the rescue mission. They had enough resources to maintain basic life support, but not much more. The first major system failure occurred in the ship's navigation section. The heart lost control of the steering systems and the massive alien vessel began to drift off course. Carter's backup computers immediately activated and took control of the navigation functions. The transition was rough and the ship jerked as the human systems engaged, but it worked. Navigation control transferred successfully, Carter reported with relief. The steering response is slower than it was with the heart, but we have control. Encouraged by this success, Carter began transferring other systems one by one. Power. Distribution came next, followed by internal communications and environmental monitoring. Each transfer was nerve-wracking because failure would mean immediate death for everyone aboard the ship. The most critical transfer was life support. The heart controlled the atmosphere processors, temperature regulation, and gravity generators throughout the massive vessel. If Carter's systems could not handle these functions, the thousands of aliens aboard would suffocate or freeze within hours. As Carter prepared for the life support transfer, the heart made one final effort to communicate. The dying biological computer sent patterns of light and sound through the ship's systems that Rodriguez recognized as a farewell message. The heart was saying goodbye to its people and expressing hope that the human systems would keep them safe. It knows it's dying, Rodriguez told Morrison with tears in her eyes. It's trying to comfort its people and tell them not to be afraid. The emotional weight of the moment affected everyone in the control center. Even Carter stopped his preparations to watch as the heart used its last energy to create a beautiful display of lights and music throughout the ship. The aliens responded with their own light patterns, creating a farewell ceremony for their ancient companion. When the ceremony ended, Carter activated the life support transfer sequence. His computers began taking control of the atmosphere processors, while the heart gradually released its hold on the systems. For several terrifying minutes, both systems operated simultaneously as control shifted from biological to mechanical. Alarms began sounding throughout the ship as the transfer progressed. Atmospheric pressure fluctuated, temperature readings jumped up and down, and the artificial gravity generators cycled on and off randomly. Carter watched his displays frantically as his computer struggled to stabilize the alien systems. Losing atmosphere pressure in sections 7 through 12, Rodriguez reported while monitoring the ship's status. Temperature is dropping rapidly in the forward compartments. Carter worked desperately to adjust his programming as the human computers learned to control alien technology through trial and error. His systems were designed to be adaptable, but they had never been tested on anything like this. He made rapid changes to his control algorithms. While the ship's environment became increasingly unstable, the crisis reached its peak when the gravity generators began to fail completely. Throughout the ship, aliens and humans alike found themselves floating as artificial gravity fluctuated between normal and zero. Emergency systems activated automatically and sealed off sections where life support had failed completely. Morrison felt helpless as he watched Carter work. The engineer was doing everything humanly possible, but the alien ship was simply too complex for human technology to control perfectly. They needed the transfer to work or everyone aboard would die, but the systems were failing faster than Carter could fix them. Then something unexpected happened. Veltar and several other aliens approached Carter's workstation and began touching the interface panels with their hands. Their skin patterns began to pulse in rhythm with the computer displays. and gradually the ship's systems began to stabilize. They're helping, Rodriguez realized. They're using their natural ability to interface with the ship to guide Carter's computers. The combination of human mechanical control and alien biological interface created a hybrid system that was more effective than either technology alone. Carter's computers provided the logical decision-making while the aliens provided the intuitive understanding of their ship's needs. Slowly, the ship's systems came under control. Atmospheric pressure stabilized. Temperature returned to normal ranges, and the gravity generators resumed steady operation. The life support transfer was complete and successful, but it had been the most dangerous few hours in the history of both species. Carter leaned back in his chair and wiped sweat from his forehead. His crude human computers were now controlling an alien starship, but the systems were stable and functional. The heart had finally died, but its people would live. Morrison surveyed the control center where humans and aliens worked side by side to monitor the hybrid systems that kept the ship running. The rescue mission had succeeded, but it had created something neither species had expected. They had built the foundation for a partnership between human engineering and alien sophistication. The ship was no longer the elegant vessel it had been under the heart's control, but it was alive and functional. Carter's analog systems provided reliable operation that the aliens could learn to understand and maintain. Most importantly, the aliens now understood the value of backup systems and redundant safety measures. As the immediate crisis passed, Morrison began to think about the implications of what they had accomplished. Humanity had not just saved an alien civilization, but had begun a technological exchange that could benefit both species for generations to come. 3 days after the successful transfer of ship control, Carter's hybrid systems had stabilized completely. The alien vessel was no longer the graceful creature it had been under the heart's guidance, but it was fully functional and safe, human. Analog computers worked alongside alien biomechanical systems to maintain life support, navigation, and power distribution throughout the massive ship. Veltar and the other aliens had adapted to the new systems with surprising speed. They were fascinated by the concept of manual controls and backup procedures that they could understand and operate themselves. For the first time in thousands of years, they were learning how their own ship actually worked instead of simply trusting it to function automatically. Carter spent his time teaching alien engineers the principles of human technology while learning about their advanced biomechanical systems in return. The knowledge exchange was flowing in both directions as each species discovered the strengths and weaknesses of different approaches to engineering. Your people build things that can be fixed, Veltar communicated during one of their daily planning sessions. This is wisdom that we lost long ago when we became too dependent on perfection. Rodriguez had made remarkable progress with the alien language, and communication had become much easier. She discovered that the aliens expressed concepts through combinations of sound, light, and harmonic vibrations that conveyed far more information than human speech. In return, she was teaching them human languages and cultural concepts. Morrison coordinated with Liberty Point to arrange the journey back to human space. The alien ship was capable of faster-than-light travel using principles that human science did not understand, but Carter's navigation systems could control the basic steering and course plotting functions. The aliens had made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of asking to be taken to their homeworld, they wanted to accompany the humans back to Earth. They were eager to learn more about human engineering philosophy and to share their advanced knowledge with human scientists. We have been alone for so long, Veltar explained to Morrison. Our people became isolated because we thought our technology made us superior to others. Now we understand that different approaches to solving problems can teach us new ways of thinking. The cultural exchange had been as valuable as the technical rescue. The aliens were amazed by human concepts like redundancy, maintainability, and planned obsolescence. They had never considered that building things to last forever might actually make them more fragile in the long run. Carter had established a workshop aboard the alien ship where he continued to build interface systems and backup controls. The aliens worked alongside him, learning to use human tools and understanding mechanical engineering principles. They were particularly interested in the concept of modular design that allowed systems to be upgraded or replaced without rebuilding everything. "Your heart was beautiful and perfect," Carter told the aliens during one of their work sessions. "But when it failed, you had no way to fix it because it was too complex to understand. Our computers are simple and ugly, but anyone can learn to repair them." This philosophy represented a fundamental difference between the two species that was now becoming a source of mutual learning. The aliens could teach humans about advanced energy systems, faster-than-light travel, and biomechanical integration. Humans could teach aliens about robust design, system redundancy, and maintainable technology. Rodriguez documented everything as she prepared reports for Earth about humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. The success of the rescue mission had established humans as partners rather than primitives in the eyes of an advanced alien civilization. This was the best possible outcome for first contact. The journey back to human space took 2 weeks using the alien ship's faster-than-light drive systems. Carter's navigation computers successfully controlled the alien propulsion technology, even though they did not understand how it worked. The hybrid human-alien systems proved to be remarkably reliable and efficient. During the journey, Morrison spent time with Veltar discussing the future of human-alien relations. The aliens were interested in establishing permanent cultural and technological exchange programs. They had scientific knowledge that could advance human civilization by centuries, while humans had engineering wisdom that could help alien society become more resilient and self-sufficient. "Your people saved us from our own perfection," Veltar told Morrison as they approached the edge of human space. "We had forgotten that the ability to fix something is more valuable than the ability to build something that never breaks." When they arrived at Earth, the alien ship attracted attention from every human space facility in the solar system. Military vessels approached cautiously, but Morrison was able to communicate that the aliens were peaceful visitors who had come to establish diplomatic relations. Carter's workshop had become a symbol of human-alien cooperation. Aliens and humans worked side by side, learning each other's technologies and sharing different approaches to engineering problems. The simple analog computers that had saved the alien ship now served as the foundation for a technological partnership that could benefit both civilizations. The rescue mission had accomplished far more than saving alien lives. It had demonstrated that human engineering philosophy could complement alien technological sophistication. The combination of human reliability and alien advancement created possibilities that neither species could achieve alone. Rodriguez established the first human-alien translation and cultural exchange program. She worked with alien linguists to develop better communication systems while teaching human cultural concepts to alien visitors. The friendship between the two species grew from mutual respect and appreciation for different ways of solving problems. Morrison reflected on the events as he prepared his final reports for Earth Command. Liberty Point had been just a small monitoring station when they detected the alien distress signal, but it had become the birthplace of the most important partnership in human history. The aliens had learned that perfection could be a trap that made civilizations vulnerable to failure. Humans had learned that their practical engineering approach was actually a form of wisdom that more advanced species could value and respect. Both species emerged from the encounter stronger and wiser than they had been alone. Carter continued to work with alien engineers, developing hybrid technologies that combined the best aspects of both approaches to engineering. His simple analog computers had saved an alien civilization, and now they served as the foundation for technological advances that would benefit both species for generations to come. The rescue mission had proved that when civilizations meet in peace and cooperation, the results can be greater than either could achieve alone. Human ingenuity and alien sophistication had created something new and valuable that neither species could have built by themselves. The future held unlimited possibilities for both civilizations working together as partners in the exploration of the universe.